Hello and welcome to the Harry Man Show, episode 61. Today I have a guest, someone I looked up to growing up to. It was actually one of the first CDs I bought from a band called Fuel, Something Like Human. His name is Kevin Mueller. I literally saved my lunch money to buy this album and listen to it over and over and over again. You're just watching him on MTV and VH1, etc. It's a real pleasure to talk to this guy. How you doing, Kevin?
Hey, Dustin, man, what's happening, brother?
Not much, man. I know this has been a little time in the making. We kind of had some back and forth, but it was also for a good cause because we had some really good news about what's happening now.
Yeah, man, when you originally reached out to me and asked me to do the show, we were on the brink of getting some contractual things together for the new version of Fuel, so I couldn't say anything. But now we're signed up. We're rocking. New album's coming out. New single dropping July 9th on, Apple, Spotify, Pandora, all that stuff. And then hitting the airwaves officially on July 20th.
Man, I'm stoked.
Our new single, Heart.
Yeah, I heard a little bit of a sneak peek from your one of Carl's posts, I believe, and it sounds heavy and it sounds great. To be honest with you.
Yeah, it's actually going back to the roots of Something Like Human
Yeah.
kind of feel to the album. You could definitely tell that Carl is back at the helm as the songwriter of the band, because it just has that feel of that nice heaviness, but not crazy heavy, just nice and
Yeah,
thick.
Easy on the ears, but still heavy enough to rock
Yeah,
to. But
it's really fun stuff to drum to, because especially if you're a jazz cat, not so much, but if you're a meat and potatoes drummer, he writes the best stuff to play to.
So before we go back to the roots of everything, how did that go about? Did Carl reach out to you, or was it just kind of an idea that transpired and one thing led to another?
Okay, so several years ago, I was in. I was doing some construction stuff. I was building the Tough Mudder courses in between albums because I'm a heavy equipment operator as well.
Oh, nice.
So I was out. One of my relatives owns a construction company that was building all the Tough Mudder courses all over the United States. So I was like, hey, I'll go travel around a little bit, dig holes. And I was out in Vegas and reached out to Carl, and we met up. And after several phone calls of him and I going back and forth, and finally I'm like, hey, dude, I'm in Vegas. You want to meet up? And we did that. And then, God, it was over, a year or more later, some contractual issues were going on with Brett and the usage of the name Fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And all I can say is Carl ended up getting the entity back.
Oh, nice.
Which he owned.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gave me a phone call. He's like, Miller, I think I'm going to redo the Fuel thing here. Are you in?
Oh, wow.
And I said, not only am I in, but I got the band.
Oh,
and
nice.
He's like, what? I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, everybody in my band, this is, and I got the singer.
Nice.
So Carl ended up coming to Pennsylvania. We got together, played like one time, and some of that video is floating around on the internet here and there. Because it was never really an audition for the kid.
Uh-huh.
So, because he was killing it right off the bat. And hence now we have the new Fuel.
Nice. And this, when you said you had members, this ties into your band Smash. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did like this high end club gig just because I just wanted to keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
So I put something together to stay busy, and we travel from Pennsylvania to Florida, Key West, doing the Hard Rock Casino down there in Orlando or wherever that is, and all the casino stuff here in Atlantic City, and all the high end club stuff. So it's a fun show.
Yeah,
it's a fun show. But all these guys have been working with them for years, and it was a great band. So when Carl reached out the Olive Branch, I'm like, dude, you got to come check these guys out. He came out and looked at me and said, yeah, this is pretty good, dude.
Yeah. I have to agree. It's a killer band for what I've seen. So now that we got all the good news out of the way, I kind of want to take it back. What got you into drumming in the first place?
What got me drumming?
Yeah, like how did it start for you?
It's a really weird story. I was about early teens.
Okay.
One of my dear friends' parents were going out of town, so as all teens do, we decided we were going to have a kegger at their house. And when I got to the house, the Bee Gees' "Staying Alive" album just came out.
Huh.
He just purchased it, and while we were setting up for the party to have our buddies come over and drink some beer, his sister was a drummer. She had this little like 3-piece, no name brand kit there, and I just got behind the drums and I was like, stop, just playing along. We cranked the music up. I was just playing along. This was even before the party started, and then I kind of just forgot about it and walked away. And then we had the party, got in trouble, all that shit. And a week later, I remember calling him up saying, "Hey, Ed, would your sister be interested in selling that drum set?" So I bought it for like $65 and took it home. And that was the beginning of the end. All summer hit. All my friends were out swimming and doing crazy stuff. I was downstairs like 12 hours a day banging the shit out of those drums.
Really? So,
yep.
What? Obviously, Bee Gees was the first beat you learned, but what was the main influences? What was the drummers you're like, oh, I want to be like that? What was getting you right off the bat?
Well, as things progressed, like I didn't even realize that at that moment that was going to be a thing for me. It was just more of a hobby. Like I was having a blast doing it in my head at the moment. I wasn't like, yeah, man, this is what I want to do. But as within a year of that, I already was in my first band, and we were doing Tom Petty stuff, and we had a couple girl singers, and doing some Pat Benatar, and it was just started growing. And then we went out and did our first little show. And I even remember the name of the place. It was called the Lincoln Tavern in Kutztown, Pennsylvania. And we went there, and there was probably like, 50 people in this joint. And we played, and they were screaming, and we were having a blast. And then at that moment, that's when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. But now to answer your question, at that point, then it was, as time was progressing, of course, it was Neil Peart, it was John Bonham, it was Stu Copeland, like all these great guys that the picks are the picks. It's the same as everybody,
Yeah.
And then years progress more, and then you're watching a dude like Simon Phillips and Rod Morgenstein, and you're like, holy shit! Like, look where this can go. Like, then Simon, like, going from traditional playing to going open hand, and like, okay, now it's left hand lead, and then sitting down and trying to master that shit, which. I have fun with that now at the shows. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go here with my left hand on the hi-hat, let that thing go over, and you just start having fun with stuff. But yeah, it's just, it's really hard to ask any drummer. And I know there's so many good drummers out there right now. Like, there's so many good drummers.
Yeah.
So anybody that I hear that sparks an interest, you're like, yep, that's influential. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So,
well, speaking of influence, me around the age I got that album, you were using 2 bass drums. So was that something that transpired right away, or was that something kind of came later as you learned?
Yeah, I was always a single kick player. Never had the 2 bass drum thing. And then eventually switched, probably in my 20s, switched over to double pedal. And then when the Fuel thing hit, I came out, I had just a little, the 4-piece Stingray kit with a double pedal. And then eventually got my first huge endorsement, because Stingray was a smaller company out of the Philly area. And I thank that guy, Bill Kaufman. He was awesome for signing me on, giving me some drums, and he built me some great sets. And then as Fuel started taking off, he couldn't service me because we were heading over to Australia at that point, and New Zealand, and all through Europe. So I remember him saying to me, like, dude, I get it. You got to fly the nest. Got to find somebody that can service you over there and get you drums.
Yeah.
And that's when I parlayed into my first huge endorsement with Premier. And my guy there, the A&R guy, was Joe Hibbs, who is a really, really world-renowned known A&R guy. And so I was with Premier for a couple of years, and then he moved over to Mapex. And a year after he moved, I moved over to Mapex. And I've been with Mapex for all these years, but looking to go maybe make a move at this point.
Yeah, no, we talked about that before the show, but I wanted to, in that time that you were traveling, and this is like pre-YouTube and pre-media, was it surreal that the band was blowing up at that point?
Dude, it's always surreal. Yeah. Like, the whole thing is surreal. Like, every time you go to a new place and, or you're walking on stage, like, okay, I'm in an amphitheater playing with Aerosmith, pinch, 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 you're like, wow,
Yeah.
And you try not to take it. At least I tried not to ever take it for granted. You're like, what's it like being a rock star? I'm like, I'm really not a rock star. I'm just a guy that was lucky enough to do what I wanted, like what I dreamed of doing.
Yeah.
So
it's the opportunity meets preparation kind of thing.
yeah, it's just like, it's kind of like hitting the lottery, dude. You're like, holy crap, this is really happening. So,
yeah.
I cherished every moment in that band. That's where Carl and I really rekindled to go back to that.
Now,
That's what really, really bonded us in the love we had for the band that we made.
Now, when you're traveling like that, were you still finding time to like keep your chops up, or stay in shape because you're physically active as well? Was that kind of an obstacle, or that just came natural for you?
Well, I mean, you're playing every night.
Yeah.
Like early on, the Sunburn record. Out of 2 years, I was home for 14 days.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so 6 nights a week of playing. The last thing I wanted to do is look at a practice pad on Sunday or Monday or whatever the day off was.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to set the stakes down for a minute. And now granted, for all the younger drummers out there, you're playing when you're touring like that. You're playing the same 14, 15 songs every night.
Yeah.
So it becomes such muscle mind memory. You're really not breaking out anything in new chops land. So would I suggest getting on a bus with a practice pad and doing some rudimental stuff? Absolutely. And that I've done, because you wouldn't believe, even though you're playing every night, you get rusty in some other departments when you don't do that.
Oh, absolutely. As you guys were touring, what was the gig or the one that actually stood out to you that you still kind of recall it day to day?
I would say, my God, I'm trying to remember the exact date. Don't quote me on this, but I'm going to say the HFS Festival. I think it was early 2000, 2001, maybe. That was 60,000 people, dude. Us, Korn, Limp Bizkit. Like, it was crazy. You walked out in this huge ass football stadium, and all you saw were a sea of people, and I was like, oh my God, this is awful. So that one is just, yeah. And then, one of the first shows, oh man, I'm trying to thinking. I think it was 30,000 people, showed up in Texas or someplace from an outdoor festival. And, we just got off the plane, went right to the radio station, did an interview, shoot over there, literally get behind the drums, backstage while the other band is playing just to make sure everything's right. Cause my tech set everything up and it was a rental kit. And by the time I'm even settled in on the drums, they're already rolling me out. And I remember, and this was early on, man. And I remember just looking out there, and my hands got so sweaty I couldn't even hold on the sticks. When I looked out at the crowd of people, I was like, "Oh my God, kind of shit my pants right now." and but after like 3 songs, then you settle in. You're like, "Yep, this is awesome."
Yeah. I mean, I've never played in front of a crowd that big, but I understand that it takes more out of you mentally than people think.
Oh, absolutely. So, a lot of questions I get now is like, dude, do you get the jitters when you go on? I was like, well, I get the jitters, but not scared jitters. I get like the really excited jitters, because when the lights drop and that intro starts and you hear the crowd roar, it is the coolest endorphin that you can ever imagine.
Yeah.
It's just such a cool feeling, especially when you're at a place where they're there to see your band.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And you look out there and you got 30,000 people singing Hemorrhage with you, and you're like, "Holy shit, this is so cool."
Yeah, and that song was in rotation. Let me tell you for sure. I think that song
number one song for 3 months, man.
Yeah, that thing was on probably every 20 minutes. To be honest with you.
Yep. And it's actually resurfacing now.
Yeah,
since we re-announced the band, it's like, it was like the number 2 slot there on Pandora a couple weeks ago. I got we're like, holy shit.
Damn, yeah. Even like just the idea of having you on the show here, like it kind of brought back just me going through all the stuff, and I'm like, man, I forgot how great that album was.
It's that was one we were super proud of.
All right, so I know you took a hiatus from there, but you also play in a band called Tantric. Is that correct?
I did the End Begins album with them.
And how
did some songwriting on that record and jumped in on that for a moment.
And how did that come about?
I had another band that I just got signed to Warner SMG, a band called Foster Child.
Okay.
And it was more of like an old school, heavier rock, kind of like, I don't know, 70s meets Guns N' Roses kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had just penciled the deal with them, and then I got a call from Hugo asking me if I could do some studio stuff for him, because he's reforming his band, and asked me if I could just track some drums. So I remember getting in my RV, tooling to Kentucky, I believe, and met with him for a few days. We did some writing, and we actually wrote Down and Out.
Oh, wow.
And then I had a pretty shitty recording of it that I got back, and our label guy, Jeff Hansen, asked me, he said, "Hey, how did the writing session go?" And I sent him the song, and he called me back within 15 minutes. He said, "Hey, I'm going to get a plane ticket for you and Hugo. You need to come in the office. I think we're going to sign the band." I was like, "What?" And next thing I know, Tantric is getting signed to the same label. They're like, "All right, so we're going to sign the band. Kevin has to be involved. He has to be a drummer." I'm like, whoa. I got my own band. You know what I mean? And what happened from there was crazy. And I was out there opening up for myself. So I became the drummer for Tantric. Foster Child was touring with Tantric. So I was playing, a couple shows a night.
Jesus.
And I was driving the bus. And I was tour managing the bands. And I was dealing with all the record and radio. It was crazy, dude. So I kind of burned out. And then during that time, I had a marriage that went south. Okay. So that's why I had to end up leaving the band to come home and try to save my shit. And
well, I'm sorry to hear that.
That. Sorry. Yeah, it happens. Rock and roll, bro.
Yeah. So I know we can't dig too deep into the contractual stuff, but what the times are now, do you think, obviously signing a band's a whole different deal. Do you think the media has helped or hurt, like with releasing one single at a time or kind of laying it out that way?
Everything that I thought I knew about the music record business from the Fuel days is so not like that now. Yeah. Like I literally don't know shit on how to put a record out. Really? You know what I mean? Because by the time we were into our second record, third record, like everything that how it's going to happen and how it's going to get set up. And dude, I got a single dropping in days from now, and I have no idea. Because we have a whole team of people that are doing this that are all up and savvy on this shit, and they're like, just sit back, trust us, and they're like, oh god, heard that before.
Yeah.
But but everything is indicating that it's gonna gain some legs and go great, and we're pretty pumped up about it. I mean, we have a lot of people in the record radio business that we've had relationships with for 20 years that have heard the new record, and they're like flipping out about it.
Yeah, you guys have a ton of loyal fans too.
Yeah.
Even some of the, what I've seen on the social media, the reaction to it it's great so far.
Oh, dude, we've been getting a ton of love for this, and people are really, really welcoming the new lineup and giving John at least a chance to take a listen to him vocally. Mm-hmm. The biggest question a lot of the fans are asking is, yeah, but how does he sing the old stuff? And all I can tell you is he kills it.
Nice.
He does it complete justice. I mean, he was a fan of the band.
Yeah.
So not only, it's that like that movie Rockstar where,
I love that movie.
The mic got handed to the kid. Yeah. And he's just like, holy shit, I've been singing this stuff my whole life. And now I'm actually just singer for the band.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
So,
and he's a great dude, man. He's such a good guy, man.
Yeah. So what I was getting at is that back in the day, you would lay out 2 or 3 albums, ahead of time. Do you think it's easier just to kind of do the one single at a time, or do you kind of miss, writing all that stuff out?
Well, I think now the way they do it now is I believe it's called a waterfall effect. So we release a single and it comes out and it starts doing its thing. And I think, in a very short time after they drop a second one, and a short time after that they drop a third. Like they just keep going.
Going into the studio, how do you kind of prep for? How do you normally prep for things? You got a lot of rehearsal, or you just kind of map things out as you go in the studio?
Well, Carl was in Vegas and we were here, so Carl would send the files. And when Carl sends you a song, dude, it's done.
Really?
Like his stuff is done. So you just get in there and pretty much suss out what he's got, and then I'll call him back and I'd be like, hey, dude, this hi-hat pattern is kind of a natural, like the way you're dropping it here. And he goes, all right. So then I would play what would feel more natural and send it back to him. He's like, I get that now. Okay. Cause he's doing a lot of stuff, on the keyboard kind of drums.
Yeah.
He's been really cool with and open to change. And, this makes more sense to do this way. And I would drop this way. And that's that. But when it comes to guitar parts, stuff like that, that's Carl's specialty. So, when the guys are going in to track any of that stuff, they're pretty much laying down what he almost has.
Nice. So, I know I don't mean to overstep with this, but do you guys have plans to tour with this album, or is kind of do one show?
Yeah, we actually booked our first show. It's a private show at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut it's like a high roller show. That's our first thing on the books.
Oh, nice.
There's some other things in the works right now, but as we're kind of late in the game in announcing the band, but we just had to make sure everything was lined up correctly to do so, and make sure that the radio and digital formatting was going to be on schedule and that kind of stuff. I mean, here it is. It's days before, and dude, we're still approving artwork for singles and album covers.
Yeah, yeah.
It just never stops. Like as soon as you think you got something, you're like, let's change the color of this because that doesn't look right, and it's just nonstop. I welcome it, but I have never been. I've been really busy in the past with doing some other things, but this takes me right back to when all cylinders were firing and shit just was nonstop, and that's where we're at now. It's just crazy.
That's good. But
literally like 75 emails a day on one subject.
With that being said, do you kind of have? I know you're kind of shopping different drum companies, but do you have a setup in mind, like sizes or cymbals you want to use?
I'm currently with TRX cymbals.
Oh, nice.
And really, really love their stuff. It's just great sounding.
Now, as far as the drum kit, are you going to rock the 2 bass drums, or are you going to kind of keep it down to 1 this time?
We were just talking about that and laying out the stage, like getting our whole plot together and what we're going to do light-wise and scrimmage and all the other added shit that you put in with, rolling carts with stuff in it and backline. And because I still have a lot of the stuff in my storage container of stuff that I used in the past for Tantric and Foster Child, and we're just pulling some of that out of getting the dust off and like, all right, maybe we'll put the guitar amps back in those things and all that stuff. So with that being designed, I'm trying to figure out what kit would be the nicest configuration for the stage to make it look aesthetically cool.
Oh yeah,
but I'm probably leaning more towards a single kick right now.
Yeah, and that's a lot easier to get on and off too.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if you saw the offset new kick pedals that are out, where there's both beaters are in the middle, and then you have a shaft to the left and a shaft to the right.
Yeah, I saw this.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about doing that because in this album I incorporated a lot of electronics like loops.
Oh, nice.
And I want to play them live.
Oh,
so
badass.
What I'm going to do is probably throw a offset electronic kick drum trigger pedal to my right foot.
Oh, nice.
So that way I could switch sounds and go from the acoustic kick over the trigger kick for all the loops.
Nice.
Incorporate some pads and all that stuff. But again, this is all being designed as we speak kind of thing.
Sorry to kind of jump into that. But
no, that's cool. It just made me think of it and kind of gave me a little anxiety.
Well, I'm kind of a gear nerd, so I can sit there and go on and on about that stuff. But
yeah, and again, I don't even know. I'm kind of shopping for drums right now, and who I'm going to go with. I reached out to a couple companies and talked to some A&R guys. So we'll see where we go.
Nice. You're definitely going to land something pretty badass, I know for sure. But with the way the media is, who do you find yourself watching drummer wise now? I mean, do you kind of like veg out or go down rabbit holes at all with the current drummers?
Strangely enough, I stay with what I love and what I know. I haven't really gone down there too much. You know what I mean? I watch some of the cats with a lot of the church shop shit and, doing all that crazy stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but then, I sit there and try to mess with it. And then I look at myself and giggle and go like, you would never put that in any Shield song. So what are you doing? I mean, it's fun to learn, but you're like, yeah, I think I'm going to go cut the grass.
Well, you got to keep the meat and potatoes thing is,
yeah, and I mean, that's always been my thing. Like, people, and I left out Phil Rudd, who is one of my favorite drummers in the planet, because if there was anybody that was going to hold the fort down and have the most beautiful placing of a snare and cymbal hit, or, just the way he just offset things just enough to fuck it up. beautifully.
That's
Because you watch somebody, like I'll go out to a cover gig, and I'll see a dude playing AC/DC, and I sit there and go like, yep, you're playing it wrong.
nice.
You're playing it wrong. As all you guys bust on how simple Phil was, but you're not fucking playing what he's playing. So
Wow. So if I were going to jump into your material, what would you recommend, and what channels would you recommend to kind of see what you've done in your history?
for me,
Yeah, just in general, what are you most proud of, and like what do you feel best represents your playing?
wow, that's kind of weird.
Sorry.
So it's so weird to be asked that because I never looked at myself. You know what I mean? I just look at myself as just holding the fort down kind of drummer guy. And, as far as fun songs go, if you go back to the something like, like Down was a fun song.
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. Was that on Something Like Human?
Yes,
even having
yeah, it was. Yeah.
So, like that was a fun song for me. That made me stretch the limits because I was determined to do that with a single foot.
Oh, nice. That's 1 foot?
And yeah, that's 1 foot.
Oh, excellent. Excellent work there.
Pops in there, doom to doom to bap. Doom 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 to doom to bap. And I had to work on it. Some guys might throw that shit out for easy, but for me it was nothing I ever it was challenging for me.
It sounded like 2 kicks, to be honest with you, but yeah, that's great work there.
Yeah, that's 1 foot. And even Sean Foyce from Breaking Ben, we recently became friends, and he gave me a beautiful comment, and he's like, man, I remember seeing you side stage, and I was like, dude, he's doing that with 1 foot.
Yeah.
and we were kind of laughing about it because, he jokingly said too, like, dude, I started playing the drums because you, man, I grew my hair because of you, the same length. I even had a silver drum set.
Yeah.
Like it was, and named his band like Diesel something or other. It was like a huge compliment for me. But so yeah, there's some things on the record I'm really proud of, and again, it was more of a stretch for me than it might be for some dude that plays Zeppelin songs all day long. That might have been nothing for him, but for me, it was out of my wheelhouse,
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit because you're a huge influence to a lot of drummers, and you still are.
I'm just finding this out, and it's kind of freaking me out. So, it's awesome, yes. But I didn't ever look at myself that way. Again, my entire career, I was humble and happy to be there, and just I'm like, wow, man, pinch, I'm getting to do what I love to do. So
yeah, I think you
definitely. If it influenced somebody to pick up the drums and do that shit, then thank you. And that's all I can say. I thanks to every one of them. That if I touched anybody in any way, shape, or form, that's like almost makes me choke up.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Yeah, I just think you got to give yourself a little bit more credit, dude. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what I'm gonna let you. I know you're kind of a busy guy and you got stuff going on today, but I kind of want to clarify on when the single drops, and it's July 9th, right?
July 9th, I believe it's hitting all digital formats, and July 20th, then we hit the airwaves on radio.
Oh wow! And what was the name of that song?
That one is called Hard.
Hard. Yeah, well, from what I heard, if I heard that one, it's excellent stuff, and I definitely recommend everyone go check it out as soon as it drops.
It's a drummer song, dude. There you go. So if you want to talk about a song that's just fun to just wail through, that's the one.
Nice. Well, Kevin, this has been a real honor. Having you on and all this.
Thank you for having me, man. This is great. Love it. Yeah, thanks for being a fan and awesome.
I like to touch base on you once it kind of gets the train going again. But yeah, I'm looking forward to what you guys have in store.
Hey man, have me back whenever you want. After things get up and bang, and you want to do another one, and we could talk about where we're at. That would be great.
All right, Kevin. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, buddy.